are now about to witness the awesome, crushing might of KNUCKLE! Woo! Welcome, my friends, to a show that seemingly apparently never ends. I am your host, Eugene S. Robinson. And the S stands for round number 306. 251 is the one I set myself a flame. That's the name of the game. But first, the lines that say it all. Long and short, short and tall. Stigmata, calling of the just. I'm on my way back to nowhere. I took my time, but I could not see too clear. I'm taking a real good look at you. A real good look at your face. For being paid back and for always nothing. All right, mein Freund. Meine Freund. Meine Damen und Herren, knuckle up. I'm your host, Eugene Secret Chip. A buddy of mine, a sports agent extraordinaire, had come to the conclusion that you could sell anybody anything, well, specifically any deviant sexual activity, on the basis of, we'll keep it a secret. Tell anybody. No matter what kind of crazy thing that you do, and by putting the framework of shh around it, it's a secret that people feel like, man, like Hitler said, oh, Hitler, 30 seconds in, got a Nazi mention. Hitler said there are 3 types of secrets. Those I keep from you, those that we share, and those about future events as yet unknown. And that is the theme of round number 306 of Knuckle Up, of which I am the host, Eugene S. Robinson. And I'm going to launch right in because it's going to take me some time to develop these arguments. And these arguments, very simply, they're not even arguments. If you remember the Arsenio Hall show, Arsenio Hall, who recently came up when he was accused of date raping Sinead O'Connor by Sinead O'Connor. And then she disappeared. He used to have a show, and he used to do his section on the show called Things That Make You Go, And things that make you go, you know, I mean, his was always good-natured, completely the opposite of mine. Mine are dark, disturbing, suspicion-filled, paranoid rants, and welcome to it. So here we are. Oh, yes. Hitler less than 20 seconds in. I thought it was 30. Thank you. You know, if you want to know where I got this whole Hitler thing from, it wasn't a juvenile obsession with Germans and Nazis. Nah, I started listening to Mae Brussel, I know it sounds like Brussels, but it's M-A-E, first name, last name Brussels, like the sprout, sort of, except an extra L, I think. I can't remember. Not like the city. And when she died, Dave Emery, E-M-O-R-Y, picked up the scheme. And what he picked up and what caught me was this section he did, a series of shows of Flight of the Wolf, which just talks about Hitler escaping from the bunker and into Argentina via submarine, but flying into Barcelona, a fascist country, Spain. And what I noticed after listening to Dave Emery hours and hours and buying tapes and listening is that for him, it was like a Rosetta Stone of industrialized, modern, corporatized evil, the tendrils of which still, we don't have to go very far. One of the very recent, presidents of the United States of America, George W. Bush, via his father and the family connection, it just goes like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Now, I don't know Kevin Bacon. I am not a super big fan of Kevin Bacon. No, I feel kindly toward Kevin Bacon, but the 6 degrees are apropos. Does that mean that Kevin Bacon is signed off on crazy shit I've done? Or conversely, that I'm signing off on Footloose? No. But it does help you to understand the underpinnings of this tri-level chess game that in this instance, we're calling the modern world, but more specifically for our purposes, we're calling mixed martial arts. There is a Rosetta Stone. Now, when we go back to conspiracies, there's always this idea of like, well, who's in on it? How many people? On last week's Knuckle Up 307, and if you don't know why the shows go backwards in number, you'll have to ask somebody because I don't have the time. So we talked about the nature of the conspiracy and who out of the vast number, 5 or 6 different players in the heavyweight division, who had to be touched. Lesnar could have fought exactly the fight that he fought and not have been let in on it. So at that point, is it a secret shared between McMahon and the bald one? Is it a secret kept, which is very hard to believe? Is it a secret shared with the bald one, Vince McMahon, and Mark Hunt? Is it? I think we can all agree that it has to be the bald one and McMahon, because for it not to be them runs completely at odds with the kind of organizations they want. And I have to tell you, I'm going to call this show. I know the title says what it says, but when I list it up on Knuckle Up, I'm going to call it some variation of the I Told You So show. Because these are echoes of what I talked about in 307. So it completely flies in the face. Is it completely at odds with the organizations in question and how they are run? Witness days before the UFC sale to William Morris and IMG, the bald one was tweeting out that we were idiots, that there was no sale. You know what? I don't know if it was Bismarck or maybe it was Bismarck who said, believe nothing in politics until you hear the official denial. People can talk all they want about, oh, Eugene sucked a dick and Eugene sucked this dick and Eugene sucked that dick, like they say about Tom Cruise, but you don't find that has much purchase, because any presumable dick I would have sucked is not raising its hand saying, hey, he did suck my dick, or alternatively, I sucked Eugene's dick. Not a lot of hands are going up attesting to the fact that they've had their lips wrapped around my penis. When people talk about, cast aspersions about Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise starts suing people, that's when I go, hey, wait a minute. I mean, if somebody comes out and says, tweets out, Eugene S. Robinson is Chinese, why would I sue? If believing I am Chinese makes you happy, go ahead. And if you don't think there are black Chinese people out there, you're absolutely wrong. And I'm not talking about the guys in the Wu-Tang Clan. So what? You would have to presume that no Asian woman ever had sex with anybody who was African. We know that's not likely. So the bald one tweets out that the sale is not, and he's in private or not private conversation, but fairly public. Oh, you guys are idiots, you're dummies. Have any of us gone back to him and said, hey, wait a minute, because I'm that type of guy in the relationship. I go, hey, wait a minute. Ain't you just said on Tuesday that you, yeah, but you have to understand that utmost need for secrecy when you have sensitive deals like that. I don't understand shit. I don't understand shit. It was very binary. I asked you a very simple question. Is the UFC, if you were State Department, that's what I used to call a certain category of declarative statement. I would call them State Department answers. Is the UFC of which the Donald Trump does this quite well. Is the UFC being sold? Well, sales are an interesting thing, that any one person who's involved in sales, that you know that there are millions of different pieces that have to go into a sales thing. And I tell you, the UFC is a great organization. I'm really proud to participate. Did I tell you my father was an alcoholic? He was an alcoholic, and he'd come home, it was terrible. He'd leave me and my sister sitting out places. And at places, that reminds me of that movie with Bette Midler called Beaches. And I can't remember whether it's Bette Midler or Barbara Streisand. And pretty soon, you got everybody treading water. They don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then you conclude with, next question. But when you come out and say, and this usually works. I've had people tell me bald-faced lies, like that kid who was when I was a lifeguard, breaking windows, had a shirt full of rocks. His shirt bent over and had a shirt full of rocks and a rock in his hand. And I just heard the sound of breaking. He said, I'm not breaking any windows. Philosophically, I have to give this kid was a genius, an absolute and total genius. He philosophically ran circles around me in that one declarative statement. Because what he was saying, and I had to glean this from context, is that I'm not breaking windows now. A minute ago, I could have been breaking a window. And a minute hence, I might break another window. But at this point in time, I am not breaking windows. You're in Nice. A friend of mine said, there's a great deal of culpability to be shared by the media. You guys don't know shit. I think Nice is an interesting example. I think he's being claimed by ISIS. I think the guy is a Muslim who was crazy and ideologically wound up, but this was not necessarily an act of terrorism. How do you qualify an act of terrorism? Is it overweening ideology? Well, Manson, who I interviewed in the past, Charles Manson, had an overweening ideology, but he wasn't part of a terrorist organization, though they committed acts of terror. You understand? So the media, a friend of mine has said, the media did a quick version of, he went that way. And this is what happens. The bald one says, we're not being bought. And the media goes, that way. I'm not going that way. I want there to be some accountability. I know you can't really talk about it, but I got to ask you, what other shows have people eating? None. This is foodie. And this is a mango sherbet, I think. So he says no. We're not sold. 2 days later, sold. I wish to God I was sitting in Vegas. I go, that's pretty funny. Hey, remember, yo, Mr. Bald One. Hey, remember when you said you ain't gonna sell the company, and now today you sell the company? What's that about? What's that about, Mr. Bald One? And then he could lie his way through another. So right now we know. Let's just put in the box of things that we know. We know that the bald one is a liar. He didn't even do as well as the kid did with The Rock. You know, have you done drugs? I'm not doing drugs. Implication being now. I'm not selling anything now. Yes, you are. So now we've had a guy who does fake sports, Vince McMahon, and we have the bald one, you know, a bona fide prevaricator. I'm not going to say allegedly because I read the tweet. So if there's some explanation that can be offered between we are absolutely not selling and the sale, I'd like to hear it. So I'm going to say a guy who does fake sports and out-and-out prevaricator. So these two had to be in the know. They cook up something. They say, oh my God. Well, a couple of different scenarios. The payroll, look, Vince, I got this deal in the works. Let's go back in time. Mystic Mac fucked this pooch from far out. He goes, I'm not going to do the press conference. I'm not ready. You know what? One monkey don't stop no show. I can't have this kind of message sent to William Morris. I don't want them, since I'm going to have a contractual continuation for at least 5 years. He's probably up to limited. He could leave at 3 if he wanted. I don't know why he would. Much like KNUCKLE discovered the hard way, the fighting is marketing for the personal appearances. You don't fight. You got no benefit. You're not a good enough actor for people to want to see you. You think that Southie thing is going to continue playing without the imprimatur of the UFC? Even post facto, you got a big microphone. You lose that microphone because he doesn't travel well. I guarantee you. He's not a Howard Cosell who we love to have annoy us. So Mystic Mac fucks this thing from far out. He fucks it and he goes like, look, we could have a big payroll for a Mystic Mac, but all of a sudden, at that point where he pulls out and they've got to salvage UFC 200, a stink eye gets turned the way of Johnny Boney Joney. People said, oh, UG, you're full of shit. You're full of shit. Last week, people said you're full of shit. And then they found out how much Johnny Boney Joney was making, and they go, maybe you weren't so full of shit. Nah, I wasn't. So now we got to militate against dude. We got to militate against the guy. Look, we got a champion who can be sold. The Olympics are about to bust big. You know, Daniel Cormier could be a poster boy for collegiate wrestling, Olympic wrestling, the tie-in, the commentating, championship, all around nice guy, great story, weight loss, dancing chicken, the video. He's a great salesman. Expensive, but they're gunning for Johnny Boney Joney. The bigger the black, the bigger they want a piece of that booty. Quote Chuck D. So okay. Well, you know what we could do? How about this? Let me call Vince. Now that would be a good 1-2 punch. What do you think about that? We get Brock Lesnar, who we match. He wants to come back. Maybe now is the time. The diverticulitis has passed. Maybe this could be a good thing. Huh? Yeah, okay. Call him. He says, well, I got SummerSlam coming up. Fuck it. We could put him, not as obvious tomato can, but you know, we can make it. We can make this work. They announced the fight. Now the payroll is parallelized, right? Because I don't imagine that Mystic Mac was gonna get, you know, I mean, it's a little less. Mystic Mac was probably getting less, a little bit less, based on the numbers I've heard, was getting a little bit less than Johnny Boney Joney. So your payroll, he's out, it shrinks. Ticket sales also shrink. And Johnny Boney Joney is up here. They're gunning for that guy who you got to back up the truck to get him, and the ticket sales are not commensurate. But then all of a sudden they come in big time with yeah, it's making a big hole. They come in big time with Brock, and they find a compliant Mark Hunt who is going through a divorce. The Baton Rouge gunman was a Marine who served in Afghanistan. I wonder if he had been seeing a marine psychologist or an army doctor or you know what I mean, a military head shrinker. So now you've got the worst of both worlds. You've got a super high payroll and an inability to deliver in the midst of a pending sale. Is this how we're going to do business? Does this make any kind of sense at all? Somebody's got to go. Somebody's got to go. So sorry, I got to plug in the phone. It's about to die, which means if you're texting me during the show, I can't find out what you guys. So they decide between and betwixt the two of them, our bigger news story is maybe it's Lesnar, because he's just a yoked out white boy. Deal with it. Jacked up white boy. Deal with it. And on the tails of that, I guess in case you didn't remember, CM Punk was also mentioned. So you got a Trojan horse action. Ba-bing, ba-bing. Perfect two-step. Really nice two-step. Really nice. All you got to do is this loose end of Johnny Boney Johnny. If I was Johnny Cochran, I'm like, how is this working? I mean, what? I'm hearing from Chael Sonnen that Johnny Boney Johnny was hiding under the apron of the cage, which was Vanderlei Silva. He ran out the back door. They show up like the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. It's a Monty Python skit. So, you know, who knows if he was hiding. So they show up. I say, they took my urine. They took some blood. They disappeared into the night. I don't know what they did with it. How often do they return false positives? How often do they confuse samples? You know, what is the possibility of, there's a this and there's that and there's a that and there's this. I don't know. But you got a loose end taken care of. He's gone. Johnny Boney Johnny is gone, awaiting a punishment that could be a suspension of up to 2 years. And everybody can go back to filleting each other. It's a happy day in the UFC, 200 in the books. Except suddenly USADA comes back with, hey, you know what? We got a hit on Brock. We got a hit on Brock. Now, presumably, these guys would have been tested at the same time. Isn't it kind of funny that with all the tests, now keep in mind, the bald one also said, oh, you're crazy. He's one of the most tested athletes in the sport. Where else have we heard that before, Mr. Lance Armstrong? Heard that before? One of the most tested athletes in the, okay. One of the most tested athletes. Dirty. Now, Vince McMahon was feeling around the confines of his anus and discovering that it hurts. He's done business with the bald one, and it hurts. It hurts. Now you got a guy who's looking at a dirty drug test. He's looking at a suspension. And the guy, for the Sonny Liston Award for balls right now, in my mind, goes to Marky Mark Hunt, who said, you know what? I want half of his purse or I walk. And then he says, actually, you know what? I want his entire purse. I don't hear anything about him walking with the entire purse. But if you don't understand, if that circle of secrets included Mark Hunt, I am sure the bald one is feeling around the confines of his anus, and like Andrew Dice Clay said, and then I don't know if that was that Entourage. I've been fucked, and now I'm doing the fucking. I did what you guys told me to do, and now you dragged me into some fucking dirtiness. Somebody's got to get punished, and somebody's got to get paid. I needed the money when I went into it. I don't know. You got exposure here, and I could have gotten hurt. And I took a suck for you with this loss. Now it's your turn to do right by me. What are you going to do? The sale is already through. At this point now, if I'm the bald one, I'm on the horn right away to Ari Emanuel. So what? Hey, if you look in your file, fuck it, let's make this thing work. What do you find, Mr. Emanuel? Well, first of all, you got to pay. The solution in Hollywood, thank God, is pay. The difference between Hollywood and the mafia is that Hollywood has figured out pay. Brad Renfro and all those guys who accused Bryan Singer of, drug-fueled sex parties with teenage underage boys who were, plied with alcohol and narcotics and then cornholed by older Hollywood men. Those kids all got paid, either via career. The mark of them not being okay wasn't just, oh, they lived too fast and they died. And no 14-year-old boy. Look, let me tell you, there was a guy named David Thorstad, and David Thorstad was the president of the National North American Man-Boy Love Association. And I ran an article on Thorstad, and at one point he said, "You can't tell me right now there isn't a single boy in America who doesn't need a blowjob right now." And I was like, "Yo, dude, you might be right, but whether it's the supple, warm lips of a young woman of his choosing, or a young man of his choosing, if the guy is that way inclined, or the grizzled, trembling, onion stank breath lips of a 60-year-old degenerate, is very different. These are fundamentally different things. So Bryan Singer and all these guys in Hollywood who were systematically, allegedly, having these boy sex rings, you know how they make that shit go away? They pay those guys off. That's how they make it go away. And every now and then you have something you can't buy off. Roman Polanski couldn't buy that 13-year-old girl off. Mostly because her mother was pissed that they were saying that she was lying. That she was some kind of party girl. She was 13. There would be, look, let's not, I can't even talk about Polanski. Woody Allen couldn't buy off his young daughter or his stepson. I think it's safe to call Ronan Farrow his stepson. Everybody else can be bought off. The difference between that and mafia is that mafia, but it's the what is it? They say lead or gold. I can buy you off or I can shoot you in the head. And Hollywood just buys people off. So Ari says, first thing off, pay Mark Hunt. Pay him. Pay him. What do you have to lose? You're not going to lose face. If you think that you're going to be talking in the next 5 years about Mark Hunt fighting, he won't be fighting for the UFC. Nobody wants to see this. Pay him. Keep him quiet. Get some peace of mind. Steady this shit. What? Not pay Brock? If you don't pay Brock, what's going to happen? Like, Brock needs some money for that pity pat thing that he fought. Screw Brock. Pay Hunt. Brock is chemically challenged anyway. It's not like he got a long career. He came in for one. Leave him be. Appeal the thing. Let him fight SummerSlam. Work it out in the long run. And, of course, the happiest man in Mudville today has got to be Johnny Boney Johnny, because they're not going to slap Brock Lesnar with a 2-year suspension and run the risk of having their pants pulled down when a fighter goes, I don't give a shit. How about I promote my own fight and fight in some place where people don't give a fuck about USADA? How about I go to Macau and fight a fight? How about I have a rumble and jumble? I don't need you. As a signatory, yeah, but there are plenty of places where it doesn't make a difference. Johnny Boney Johnny's got to be sitting around going, and already he's got some pep in his step. He's like going, hey, whatever, I still have these God-given talents. I'm going to train if I get suspended for 2 years, but they're not going to suspend him for 2 years now. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. Maybe Brock is a non-factor, but I'm guessing it's goose gander. If you give it 2 years to Brock, you got to give 2 years. If you give 2 years to Johnny Boney Johnny, you got to give 2 years to Brock. If you don't want to give Brock 2 years, you got to give 6 months, and then Johnny Boney Johnny. If it's good for him, it's good for both. 2 years out, it's going to hurt Johnny Boney Johnny worse than it hurt Brock, because Brock is not a real fighter, really. what he revealed in that fight with Mark Hunt is what everybody knew, knows, and still knows, that the guy's got no hands. If you think Cain Velasquez was scared after seeing that performance, you're wrong. If you think Junior Dos Santos was scared as a result, if you think Overeem, if you think any high-level striker, if you think Miocic was scared, because I tell you, learning how to stuff a takedown is a lot easier than it's going to be for a Brock Lesnar to learn how to not be afraid of getting hit. And anybody knows, Chuck Liddell said it best when I interviewed him. He said, I'm not afraid of getting clipped a little before as I'm going in. And you can see Brock still got a fear of the clenched fist. Fear of the clenched fist. Totally frightened of it. You know, panicked. He's hit panicked. So now in this tri-level scenario, you know, the best, if I'm the bald one, what I do immediately, realize my limitations on the second level, bishop to queen, black bishop to queen, and realize, God damn it, all right, I'm going to go right now to Johnny Boney Joney and demand some concessions that I think will make it easier for us to work together. Whoever it was on the team, is it Malky? I don't know if it's Malky Kawa Jones's that he's got the beef with, or somebody on Jackson Wink, or the guy's choice. But he has tried his damnedest. Now, keep in mind, 2 years if he gets suspended for 2 years, 2 years without incident, that's very difficult. Besides which, his probation with the driver doesn't last 2 years. I don't think it does, right? So that means the superset of a 2-year suspension, and then the subset of he has got 1 year mandatory probation or whatever it is with a driver. That's a year of him out behind the wheel again. And it's clear to me that this preacher's son, it is the Darryl Strawberry comparison I made on Knuckle Up 307 is much more than apt. If you expect Johnny Boney Joney to stop fucking up now, you are exactly wrong. And the reason why I can say I told you so on this, and the reason why I've been so right, is because I'm looking at the trees. I'm not looking at the press conference where the guy is contrite and chest beating and tearful and trembling. I'm looking at what happens when he goes back to Albuquerque and who he's choosing to have it happen with. 13 mini Mark Cato Kalins. These guys got nothing to offer the world except the ways in which they take away from what you could offer it. God's honest truth. I called it last time. How are you gonna choose for a 28, 29-year-old man? How are you gonna choose his friends for him? Going through a similar situation like that with a family member, a couple of family members. You know what they say? Choose your friends wisely. Or like Dylan said, man can't give his address out to bad company. And people look, Eugene, look at you. You've got a coterie of hookers, porn stars, drug addicts, contract killers, murderers, a rogues gallery of. People don't know where I live. I'm not hanging out with them all that much either. At all. So Johnny Boney Joney is got, if he's smart, he's like, I can play this to advantage. I can play this to advantage. But saying if is like that great scene where they said, I'm going to come over to I think the Peloponnesian War. I'm going to come over, you know, if you guys, I'm going to come, you know, if our armies get over there, we're going to smash you, we're going to kill you, we're going to kill you, we're going to enslave you and rape you, and they got a one-word response back from, maybe it was the Spartans. I don't remember. I just remember that the one-word response was if. Yeah, if. I said about Johnny Boney Joney. And it's a weird thing because can the DC wait 2 years? Can DC wait 2 years? I don't think so. Who's he going to fight in the 2-year period that you want to hear the resounding boos echo in the man's head as the future of his failures play out on his face? Unlike Sally Field, they don't like you. They really don't like you. It just happens when we come up with the list of wanting and adversity. Johnny Boney Joney outstrips you. It's like George W. Bush at the funeral for the cops, bopping and dancing. People immediately came to defend him. Well, you know, in New Orleans, people bop and dance. Oh, yeah, look at this. Look at this. You know, my production crew, look at that. Unless you're confused about what this toilet paper roll represents, it represents Eugene S. Robinson's burgeoning a ventriloquism career. How you doing, Eugene S? Absolutely fucking fine. Absolutely fucking fine. You goddamn hard. Hey, they don't have that kind of language on this show. You go fuck yourself. See, I'm working on it. I got a routine. So we could just have him here the rest of the show. No, it's distracting. Yeah, it's great. I'm glad my production staff is busy. Very busy. So Johnny Boney Joney has got, thank you very much. Thank you very much from the peanut gallery. So Johnny Boney Joney is like, he's got, if he was smart, he could go through the rapids and play this for his advantage. DC wants him. Gustafsson needs him. Rumble needs him. You know, the UFC doesn't. Dude's getting $8 million a fight or some crazy numbers like this that I'm hearing. They don't need that guy, especially because you can't build a promotion around it now because you don't know what he's going to do. Fortunately, he's young enough so 2 years won't be killing, but, you know, what 2 years did it take out of Ali's life? What kind of stumbles happened with the Tiger Woods with the 9-iron against the head and watching the gay porn with the cocktail waitresses? And I don't mean lesbian porn either. Sometimes you stumble and you don't get back. Don't know. Guess we'll find out. But there is a glimmer of hope and a glimmer of light. But what you need to remember is the Baldwin doesn't need you. What you need to be doing right now, you need to be, if you're within the sound of my voice, I hope you're listening from a phone in the driveway of Ari Emanuel. I hope that's where you are, because that's where you need to be. Because this guy is a fuck it, let's make this work kind of guy. Not pursuing personal vendettas because the guy screwed you. That was a past. We need to think about the future. Because if it's Johnny Boney Joney fighting in the juniper bushes behind the 7-Eleven, still might pull more than Stipe. Sorry, you know that's true. So, and let me say that if you have ever seen a more aggressive player in the Lost Battalion than Chris Weidman right now, he's raising it to a fucking art form. It could be that English is his first language versus Junior Dos Santos, who just had that moment of infamy immediately post-fight where people could make the claim that he was brain boggled. But Weidman is now just, his lips don't stop moving. I hear this beep, 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 beep sound from the mist, and somebody says, what the fuck is that? Is somebody's phone? Is somebody's alarm going off? They go, nah, it's Weidman. What the fuck is Weidman talking about out there? I don't know. You know, he's got the thing, and what thing? What is he talking about? Well, right now he's saying that Bisping is a freaking coward. You know, he's a freaking coward for fighting. He's still talking? He's a coward for fighting the Henderson. He was, you know, how's your neck, man? How's your neck, Chris Weidman? Your neck okay? Man, could you give me the name of your acupuncturist, your acupressure guy, or your doctor? Huh? Or could you pass that along to me? Because that was magic. Because you went from having your neck hurt at Luke Rockhold, and Bisping has it right. You want to fight somebody, fight Rockhold. That's the fight that was supposed to happen. I mean, you know, they're 1 for 1. If there's not a series in there, eventually. But first things first, baby. But I guess, like, you know, if you don't really hear Sarah Longo talking too much about Chris Weidman, I see Weidman with a spit bucket. I see him with a spit bucket. That's where I see him, in guys' corners. That's where I see him. So I'm gonna have to say, if you want to know, he and Johnny Hendricks are leading the charge. By which I mean, he's standing by the wood pile over here, furiously windmilling his fist, and Johnny Hendricks is running backwards with one shoe off this other way in the mist. And I know I got a little heat for mentioning TJ Dillashaw from you nut jumpers, you motherfuckers trying to get nasty with me. Let me tell you, TJ's making me nervous. Lost battalion eyes. I got no dog in that hunt. But I don't like copycats, especially ineffective ones. I don't know. I thought I won that. You thought you won that. You thought you won that. Me too. Me too. I thought I won that fight. Well, you didn't fight. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I didn't fight. That's how I was the same. We got the same kind of weight. So punishments. Punishments. I did touch on punishments. Eugene, what do you think the punishment should be? Well, let me tell you a little bit about PEDs. Let me tell you a little bit about PEDs, which stands for pastries every day. No, Duncan gave me that, and he said that they should test Ronda for PEDs, and of course, by PEDs, he meant pastries every day. I'm not out to body shame. I'm not out to body shame. I'm not out to say stuff like, you know, when Ronda's sitting around the house, she sits around the house. I'm not saying that. That's not nice. That when she stand on the street corner, the cops come up and say, break it up, break it up. That's not nice. And I'm friends with her mother. Well, what kind of guy would I be if I did stuff like that? PEDs. We know, tests have now proven, that up to a year after, post facto, they continue working. So if a guy has been popped, you suspend him for a year. And I like Chael jump in there. The guy knows his stuff. If it's Clomid, HCG, if it's a Proviron, Novadex, these are things that I have consumed at the conclusion of a cycle of steroids. Now, if what I suspect is the case, that most of the fighters I know who are on, who have imbibed the performance-enhancing drugs, have taken low-dose steroids. And by what I mean by low doses, if you have a vial of Sustanon, test propionate, Winstrol, whatever, a low dosage would be you start your cycle at half a cc, you go up to 1 cc, couple of weeks at 1 cc, and when your muscle receptor sites max out, you increase the load to 1.5 cc's. Maybe now at the peak of your cycle, maybe fourth week or fifth week in, you hit 2 cc's, and then you start to make the climb back down to your last week of half cc's. Now, the 3 weeks before the end of the cycle, whether you do an 8-week or you figure out a 12-week cycle, about 3 weeks from the end, you take 2 injections. You take your 1 cc or half a cc, wherever you are at that point, and you take some HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. This is reckless bodybuilders don't do this. Guys who want to continue having erections at the conclusion of their cycle, because it might cause erectile difficulties, at least for a few weeks, which of course snowballs in your head and you think you got a problem, blah, blah, blah. This is pre-Viagra, Viagra afterward, baby, who knows? But you also don't want the teeny tiny testicles. So about 3 weeks in, you take human chorionic gonadotropin made from the urine of pregnant women. You inject it into yourself. Your body recognizes it. Oh shit, it's a female hormone happening. We have to kickstart the male hormone. So it starts naturally. Your testes start producing steroids again. Okay, so you're doing this. So you put some human chorionic gonadotropin. Your body goes, oh shit, it starts producing testosterone on top of the exogenous testosterone, the stuff, half a cc that you've already introduced, your body starts producing in here. Okay, how do you stabilize this? Because your system now will go, oh shit, he's got more. Maybe we should produce more estrogen. This is where you see guys get the puffy and they get the gynecomastia, the fat collection of the nipples. And you say, right now, in that gap, Clomid, Novadex. I used to use Proviron. I didn't think it worked. And it's an estrogen antagonist. So you can keep it here. Your testes are reproducing. And if you're a low dose guy, you're still in the range that doesn't get suspicion. But the tests have gotten more sophisticated. And while human chorionic gonadotropin is in and out, Novadex or Clomid, which tends to, Clomid I don't like because it hurts around the injection site. And unless you're having somebody shoot you up, if you're right-handed, you will more often give yourself injections with your right hand, your right cheek, and your skin starts to get tough. And if you think you can do it with your left hand, think again. Try wiping your butt with your left hand and see how easy that is. So you need to actually get it. So most of you guys who are not taking any are walking around like this. This is probably natural. Testosterone, estrogen in your system, it's probably natural. But where you start to seesaw is when you start to introduce other elements. Why is a question people usually ask. Well, if you're taking low dose, and just by perspective, when I was a bodybuilder, my cycle, whether it's an 8-week or 12-week cycle, would peak out at 4+ cc's a week. That means if you take a 22 gauge, 23 gauge, intramuscular syringe, we're talking about something that big. That's a lot of sesame oil and drugs to be shooting in your butt. But it's bodybuilders. So half a cc is low dose. Yes, repair is an issue. More importantly, what I found, and the only way I can reasonably tell if somebody's taking steroids, your refractory period is like this. You go boom, 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 boom. You're not getting, even though strangely enough, because you're building muscle which has to be fed. You're building a muscle which has to be fed. So, you got to do cardio. Like I said, Ben Johnson, yeah, sprinter, had it. Not too many guys who are long distance runners are doing it because you build muscle that has to be fed and you won't develop a vein structure that's extensive enough to be able to feed it right away. So guys like who get Hector Lombard, yeah, Romero, they're always known for gassing. And that's not what they're known for. Low dose are good because it allows you to do cardio and get a sweet spot. How are you going to spend it? Get a sweet spot where you still got cardio and you still got that drive to fight with no refractory period. But what I'm saying is the guy is timing. His timing, if all you're catching is either the Novadex or the Clomid, Proviron, or HCG, if all you're catching trace elements of that, you have to backdate it. Because if he does a 12-week cycle and those are the last 3 weeks, 12 weeks is 3 months, you could be talking about something. I mean, there are guys who do that exclusively, who take anti-estrogens exclusively because they want this delta to stay within the acceptable range. So we're talking about something that could go back 6 months. I suspect it was during the powerlifting period. But it is an example of fouled advice, right? Look, Timothy Ferriss, the 4-hour guy, 4-hour work week, used to train with this guy at House Place. And he was making stuff in his kitchen called Brain Quicken. He's trying to give it away to like, you'll get the moves much faster. You'll go right into your brain. I'm not taking shit you're making in your kitchen sink. Maybe it's people making homegrown supplements. John, you got to try this out. Shit, what is it? Oh, it's just some powder, a little caffeine. I'll mix it up. It'll be great. Great, huh? Great. It'll be fantastic. John takes it 2 weeks later. Man, I do feel great. You sure this is non-steroidal? It says right there in the package, non-steroidal. Technically, yeah. It's not increasing my testosterone, but the test is more sophisticated because they got to catch bicyclists, they got to catch biathletes, they got to catch, shooters take it because they want to slow their heartbeats down. People doing home doping, pulling out syringes of their own blood like Rappin' Dan, talked about him on past shows, pulled out syringes of his own blood, put it in his refrigerator at home. This Los Altos Hills guy, rich parents, steroid-induced psychoses, started re-injecting all the blood he kept in this little mini refrigerator, not realizing it's like putting 35 quarts of oil into your car engine. It ceases being oil at that point. At that point, it is slow-moving clay. Guy dies from congestive heart failure at 19, not usual. Mike Matarazzo, heart failure. He said, well, you know what? I didn't eat any fruit because it was broken down to simple sugars. I didn't eat any greens because it wasn't adding. I just ate stuff that would give protein. So I ate nothing but red meat and took steroids. And that's why at 47, I am dying. And Mike Matarazzo was dying, not me. So appropriate 2-year suspension. In other words, appropriate for what? If you care about fighter safety, if you care about scaring people straight, if you care about being able to sell something, well, I'm going to go with RoboCop on this. They can fix anything. And if Ari Emanuel is in any way, shape at all now participating in the running of the UFC, you're going to fix this. Because the number of people who get fucked versus the number of people who get unfucked, the delta between the two is significant. You could play this to your advantage too. Johnny Boney Johnny realizes he's up against 2 years. He'll cut any deal. He'll say anything. He'll do anything to get a 6-month suspension. Fight for $1 million, fight for 500,000 because we don't trust you. Yeah, whatever. Because cooling your heels for 2 years in Albuquerque, hanging out with dudes from the mini mart is not gonna help. You know that. You know who's been incredibly silent? His brothers. Think the NFL is all over that? But he has some cover, and the cover was provided for him by Brock Lesnar. Most certainly. So there's some long plays here. Long plays. Ari Emanuel is calling the shots for the long plays. Keep in mind, Johnny Boney Johney doesn't have to fight to keep himself busy. Ari could get him busy with movies, which fundamentally keeps his name in the press for enough time for people to think, oh, is he? Oh, and a year has passed, and then he fights. DC does not have 2 years. The question is, and as remains, can Ari get through to Johnny Boney Johney? Can he get through to him? That's a big question, because fundamentally, the types of guys who listen to the ball one and types of guys who won't listen to him. It's just a presentational thing. I'm not listening to the ball one. I'm reminded of these, them, and those guys, and secretly in the back of my head, I'm thinking, this guy's got nothing for me. Well, he's going to advise me. He's going to help me. How's he going to help me? I don't believe he can help me. I'm just saying, theoretically. Of course, like I said in last week's show, I got 20 guys given the same opportunities, do not do what the bald one has done. It's fairly phenomenal. If you think, oh, I'm not willing to people's comment. I'm not willing to buy that he's so much of a genius. I'm not saying Jude's a genius. Well, you take a man who sleeps 4 hours a night, this guy, let it never, you might have more talent than I do. You might be skilled better, but you're not going to outwork me. You are absolutely not going to outwork me. That's where he is. You think that's insignificant? Let's get Mr. Bjorn Rebney on the phone. Even if Bjorn Rebney thinks, I got a raw deal. Well, your kind always does, Shamus, but even if you're still in charge of Bellator, it wasn't going to turn around. That's the hard, cold fucking truth. Scott Coker with this Michael Page fucking thing. You know, Coker is a master. A master of what? He is a master of right on the line shit. Right on the line shit. Michael Page with his Pokemon ball and that shit takes it right. I mean, I was talking to Croach Dream Crusher today about the fight, the Bellator fight on Friday with Michael Page and Santos. And he goes, listen, Santos is not a bum. Anybody who fights Santos, it's going to be a tough fight, and you might get hurt. Nick Diaz beat him, but it was a tough fight, and this was no different. But in Michael Page, if you had showed me that kick, the knee, the flying knee, it was, I would have said 100 times out of 100, I'll take a knee like that. Cyborg wasn't moving forward fast enough for it to seem damning. And he wasn't I mean, there's some guys who will take that flying knee and they're arcing up into it, and that knee is shooting up like a crescent, and you go, oh my God, dude's gonna die. And this was just like a whoop. And then you see the indentation, the dude's forehead. You know how much effort it takes to have this caved in? I don't know how many blunt objects you've been hit with. Crescent wrenches, baseball bats. That was perfect, perfectly timed, and you don't need much. Had the news been any worse than, oh, hashtag GoFundMe, you know, Evangelista Cyborg, well then you know, then okay. But it wasn't. He looks terrible. People are like, oh my God. And the bald one probably has Michael Page on the phone now. What kind of contract you got, kid? What kind of contract you got? Or, more importantly, since that would be restraint of trade or collusion, more importantly, you get, Ari just get somebody on the phone, a junior agent. Kid, do you have an agent? Because you got the charisma. You got that it thing going. You got it. You got it. In a good-natured, good, hail fellow, well-met way, you got it. Michael Page is not long for Bellator. Mark my freaking words. He knows it. Everybody knows it. Now, you take somebody like Liam McCreary, he's happy. I'm big fish, little pond. Whatever. I'm Brit. I'm getting some money. It's nice. Page, nah. Thinking about tangentials. So I got to go to Tangled right now. And I blabbed on about this, but I have covered everything I said I was going to cover. The long plays, the short cons, PEDs, punishment, Lesnar Hunt, Michael Page, and more. Next week, I am in New York City. If you want to come find me, I am in Central Park at Rumsey Field. Ozzy's having an Ozzy Fest there. I am the MC. If you go to Ticketfly right now, you can get cheap tickets at $25. As usual, those of you who listen to the show and who have my phone number, if you text me, you got to do it early in the day because I'm emceeing the whole day. But I will try to, even though VIP tickets are all sold out, I will try to get you on the VIP list, even if it means I have to come down to the front and lead you in. It should be fun. I'm interviewing Chris Blackwell, the guy who started Island Records and broke big with Bob Marley, among others. Early, like at 12:30. And will.i.am plays at 9 or 8. The whole thing ends at 9. Enough time for me to get down to Tompkins Square Park and check out the Hardcore Festival to raise money for Dr. No. But if you want, during the day, I know there's another thing on Roosevelt Island, whatever. Come on by Central Park, Rumsey Field, whatever that is, $25 to get in. Eugene S. Robinson emceeing. Wear some knuckle up paraphernalia so I know you. If you want to get in for the VIP thing, text me. We got to know. Anyway, we'll be back later on this week if I did it, the Care Don't Care preview. Anyway, if you want to be on part of this Twitter thing, at Eugene S. Robinson, that's the name of the game. That's the place to find me. And I think that's it. It gets stranger and fucking stranger. We'll see you soon.